without further ado, I would like to introduce the candidates. All right, first we have, and this is in alphabetical order, so in no special, you know, I don't have favorites here. Shenna Bellows. Come on down. There she is, Shenna Bellows, and Shenna, you can sit anywhere you like on the stage. You get the choice of what seat you want. All right, Shenna. All right, our next person in the wings is Troy Jackson. Come on down. You can sit anywhere you want, Troy. Shenna won't feel bad if you don't sit next to her. It's okay. You're gonna sit next to her. All right, all right. And our third candidate is Angus King III. Come on down. Hey, Angus. Have a seat anywhere that's comfortable for you. We're so glad you're all here. And our fourth candidate today is Hannah Pingree. Come on down.
We're trying not to fall off the stage.
You will not. We will make sure you don't fall off the stage. And our final candidate of this great and amazing group is Nirav Shah. Looks like you're at the head of the table there. You can scoot your Pardon me?
School nurses love Nirav Shah.
I love you guys too.
Our health guy. All right, I want to just say before I introduce Matt today is that we have 5 amazing candidates. We have 5 amazing candidates. I can't even tell you, if you line them all up and you say, what are all their pluses? They all have so many pluses. So we're going to get a chance today to hear from each and every one of them, and we are so, so proud to have these people on our team and as part of our party. Thank you, each one of you. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the man of the day. Well, our moderator, anyway, Matthew Quinn.
Thank you, Lisa. Sorry, guys, but I want my 5 minutes. All right, so I got to tell you right off the bat, some of you guys know who I am. Some of you guys don't know who I am, and by the end of the day, you're going to wonder why the people that know me like me. But for the first and foremost, I grew up in the theater. I grew up at Lakewood. We put on theater for people, and I gotta say, it's the only place where Democrats work their asses off to make Republicans happy. Because they're the ones that come to the show. But I gotta tell you, it's a lot of fun now because we're gonna hopefully make Republicans pretty angry in November. Because we do have a lot of good candidates today, right? And we got a lot of stuff to do. One of the biggest things I want to talk about first and foremost is our down ballot candidates, right? So the governor's the leader, they're at the top, they're the CEO and all this stuff, but do they get all this stuff done? No, not without a lot of help, right? They need the legislative body, they need people at the local level doing their things and all of that stuff. So if you see over here on the right here, we have a number of our local Somerset County and some Kennebecks because they, bridge the gap. First and foremost, he is my best friend. I got to talk him up a little bit. Dude saved my life a couple of times. Is Joe Almond, and he's running for House District 70. We're going to flip Skowhegan this year. It's going to be the first time we skip Skowhegan in a long time, and we're going to get it done. Right? Second, we have a gentleman from Fairfield. He's the one that spays and neuters your cats and your dogs, and he's a very busy man these days. Is Matt Townsend of Fairfield. Over in Palmyra, we have a glutton for punishment because who wins a Democratic seat in Palmyra, I'm not sure, but she's willing to put in the work and do the job, and her good friend Richard Torrey's here to collect $5 checks for Jessica Blanchard. Esther Franklin is running for a state senate seat. She's running in, like, I can't even name all the towns in there, but I think Skowhegan's involved, and even down to Clinton and Troy and Burnham and all those places. So Esther Franklin's over there. Cynthia Sommer Hernandez is here somewhere. She is running up in the North Country. She's in northern Somerset. So if you live up there, check her out. And Patrick Moore is running for State Senate in Waterville, Winslow, Albion, and Fairfield, and he is here as well. He is running against Scott Steerway, so you know, that wouldn't be a bad thing either, right? Last but not least, I don't believe he is here or not, but I want to talk big about those down ballot votes. And one of the things the Republicans have figured out is that if you want to change policy, you got to change it at the local level. And they've started playing a little bit dirty, right? They take that bipartisan stuff and they throw it out the window, and they're not friends and neighbors anymore. Now they're going to throw money into selectman seats. So Skowhegan has a really excellent candidate. And I don't know if you've heard this before, you're going to hear it right now, but Matt Dubois of the Bankery, of the Board of Directors of Franklin Savings Bank, is running for selectman in Skowhegan. So if you live in Skowhegan, you need to get out there on June 9th and check his name off so we can turn this ship around. Because right now it's not going so hot, is it? No. All right. Who'd I miss? Oh, Bob Sullenberger. Geez, Bob's over there. He's running. He's my guy in Cornville.
No, he's not over there.
Oh, well, he's not over there, but his people are over there. So here's the thing. You know what they all need? They need those $5 contributions. Because if you get, almost all of them have got the 60, they're going to qualify for some money. But if we get to 180, just $5, 180 people get $5, you get almost $20,000 to do this job, to run. You could actually see them on YouTube channels. You can see them on ads, all kinds of things like that, which is really cool when you're a down ballot guy. I'm like David Letterman, right? So step 2, a little bit of housekeeping. If the place catches fire, which we don't want, go that way or go that way. Don't trample anything over, anybody over. So there's the exits. Step 2, if you got to do a number 1 or a number 2, you just go through that building over there, and you can go to your respective spot and you can do your thing. Earlier, when I went to go do my number 1, there was a whole policy thing going on because 3 of the candidates were in there doing their thing too. So you might actually get to know people. You might actually learn something when you're in there. I got to give a shout out to Kelly, because she's headed up the food thing, and she has a ton of donations and a ton of people, and there's a lot of food over there, and there's going to be even more food coming out when you're done. So, make sure you eat the food, because it will go bad if you don't. And then lastly, let's talk about how this is going to go today. So we have 3 acts. Remember, I'm a showman, I'm a theater guy. And the first thing I figured out was when I was in college and I sat on those hard seats, along about 45, 50 minutes into it, you're like, holy crap, I don't care what that professor says anymore. It's like, I got to get up and I got to stretch my legs. So we're going to talk. We're going to do Act 1. Act 1, I have 10 questions, 1 for each candidate twice over. The first set of questions are going to be a little bit pointed, maybe on some policy things, maybe some things that they have said that I'd like a little bit of clarification on. They're Uncle Matt's questions. I want to hear about it, right? So they're kind of personal to me. But I think you guys will get some information out of them too, because let's be real here, we all have a lot of things in common.
I looked at them too, and they're great.
Yeah, see, you know. And then the second set of questions in this first round is I wanted them to tell a little bit about themselves. I've kind of steered them in a direction. I want to have them share a specific thing that has happened in their life. They don't know any of this stuff's going on, and but I guaranteed them that I wasn't going to toss any one of them under the bus. And then in Act 2, we got a lot of questions from you guys. We actually got 25 people submit questions. And I got to tell you, it was pretty depressing reading all of them. And I was like, holy cow. But I took my pills, and we got good, and we got back on it. But what I couldn't do is I couldn't do all 25 separate questions, and a lot of them were on the same. So I took some of the most popular questions. You might hear you might hear little bits and pieces if you wrote one and said, oh, I think that was part of me. but they're kind of an amalgamation. But what we're not going to talk about today is, we're not going to, the guys that talked about the Iran war, well, we have nothing we're going to do about that at Governor, so I kicked any foreign policy, anything that had to do with the president and all that crap in Washington that you know, what are we going to do about it? We can't do about it. We're going to talk about what we're going to do here in Maine. So that's that, but in Act 3, you can ask the questions that didn't get stated to these candidates, because they're all going to go back to their tables and they're all going to hang out and they're going to be able to tell you what's what. So without further ado, I'm going to get off this stage and we're going to start asking questions. I'm a big boy. I'm breaking down though at 46. I can't bounce around as much as I could at 26. I don't know how half of these guys at 75 do it. I'm pretty proud of them. Let me tell you what. I eat ibuprofen like it's coming out of a Pez dispenser. All right, so everybody's going to have 2 minutes to answer this first question. And I took a random number generator because I'm that kind of guy. So I didn't want anybody to say, well, you got me first and this and that. But we're all on the same team. And that's the cool thing about a primary, is we're all on the same team. And, you know, at the end of the day, these guys are going to turn around and on June, what do we say, 15, 17, 19, or July 1st, after the whole ranked choice comes out, they're going to get on each other's side and they're going to get this done in November. So you ready to hear the first question? Mr. Jackson, your microphone's right there.
Yes, I'm first.
You're first. Now, Troy, I know you know, but anybody else that knows me knows that I'm a pretty big union guy. In fact, I was the president of my local when I was a firefighter here in Skowhegan at the 4618. One of the things I was most proud about is we got the professional firefighters of Maine back into Skowhegan and got fair contracts for firefighters in Skowhegan. I wanted everybody to get $100,000 apiece. But the problem was I had a town manager that was going to sit there on the other side and we're going to negotiate a fair contract. So you are an ardent supporter of union labor and labor rights. You're out there on the picket line doing your thing, something that I'm not going to do on January 20 below weather. You're out there doing it. But here's the problem that I see. The governor's role is more like a town manager's position. And as governor, you have got to create a budget and present a biennial budget that's going to be accepted by the legislator and by the people of Maine. So my question to you is, how will you balance your passion for labor rights with your passion of our state and create a budget that you can sell to our citizens and to the legislator? 2 minutes, good sir.
Well, I think your question is starting off wrong.
Ain't nobody ever told me I was wrong before, Troy, so I'll go with it.
I mean, you said that the governor can't be passionate as far as for labor. I mean, I think the last governors hasn't been passionate for labor. That's the problem. I mean, I don't see why a governor can't be pro-labor and be governor. We haven't had that, and that's, in my opinion, part of the problem. I mean, what I've done in my time is tried to advocate for, state workers to get their contract upheld. I've held out for supplemental budgets to make sure that labor, state workers just got their contract upheld. I mean, here we are again, state workers that don't have their contract upheld. I mean, if you have a contract, you should get your contract. I mean, those are fundamental things that I believe in. I mean, you sit down, you work for a contract. If you've signed a contract, then the state should own up to that and just do that. And, for the last two and then through LePage's years, those things weren't happening. They were, and I believe in that fundamentally. Buying arbitration is something that I fought for. I think that towns, when you go to arbitration, if you get a deal, which oftentimes workers don't get, but if you do get a deal, then it should mean something. And a lot of times, even when workers get a deal, towns, administrations just say, well, no, we're not going to honor that. And I don't believe in that. I believe that you should honor a deal. In the same way with... And so a lot of these times, whenever we've been in the legislature, we have a certain amount of money that the state has to, work with, fires for contracts. we know what the amount of money is, and every time we come in with that amount of money for state contracts, and we're, you know, the state is never negotiating over that amount, and so I feel very comfortable that when the state negotiates a contract, when the union negotiates for a contract, when we come to a deal, the state can afford the deal that's negotiated. But when we don't honor that, then that puts workers in a bad position, makes the state look like a bad partner. And as governor, I don't want to do that.
Okay, thank you, Troy. I gave you a little bit of extra. I'm pretty lenient on that stuff, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate your statement onto that. Step 2, you can pass it right to Mrs. Pingree. Miss Pingree?
Ready.
All right, because this is a good one. And it kind of, again, it affects me as a tree farmer, as a Christmas tree farmer. Recently, you came to the defense of Billy Bob Fulkingham as he navigated child labor laws when it comes to the lobster industry and his child labor laws. And I got to tell you, it's very difficult to defend political adversaries. It really is. But what's more important is to stand for what is right. And you're standing for what you believe in. It's a good trait for a governor. But you stated that the fines that were levied were overreach and needs to be called out, and that as governor, you would do everything in your power to keep fishing traditions alive. There are a lot of traditions in Maine: farming, logging, hospitality, just to name a few. Many of these are potentially dangerous and are in adult working environments, especially in hospitality, and they exclude children from working in those fields. So my question to you is, as governor, where would you draw the line between acceptable child labor practices and unacceptable work environments while still fulfilling your promise to support youth in the lobster industry?
Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you. I recruited this guy to run for the Maine State Legislature in 2010, and I think he needs to run again. And I'm really appreciative of Matt and Lise and the Somerset County Democrats and everyone who showed up on a sunny day to come inside and listen to us, because it's a really important election. So this issue on the youth lobster industry, I am obviously strongly in favor of child labor laws. But Maine's lobster industry is really important to Maine. I grew up on an offshore island, a community of 400 people. In the Maine legislature, I represented a number of the fishing communities in Maine, some of the big ports, Vinyl Haven, Stonington, Swans Island. And in Maine, kids can start fishing at 8 years old. And a lot of the people I grew up with, they start at 8 and they go out with their friends. And my son is 13. He goes out all the time with his friend who is in the student license, who has a student license. And so I'm not really going to come to the defense of Billy Bob Fulkingham necessarily in this case, but I do think the Department of Labor took a sort of wrong tact when it started enforcing child labor laws for young kids going out fishing with their friends or their relatives or other people. That is how the fishing industry works. And it's not that dissimilar from how farmers employ their kids. But in island communities and in coastal communities, if you don't have a parent who's in the fishing industry and you want to learn the trade, you go out with a friend or neighbor. That is how it works. And sometimes state government does overreach. And I think we need to figure out how to get this right. And there is a balance here, and Department of Marine Resources and the Department of Labor is going to go, and they're going to go sit down with people all over Maine and make sure that we get it right. So I'm willing to come to the defense of Republicans or Democrats or independents when I have a strong opinion, and that's what I would do as governor.
Well, I appreciate that very much, because like it or not, you know, Republicans are going to be around, and we do kind of need them to do some of the things that they do. Like buy theater tickets, because we'd be out of business if we did it. I appreciate that. Next up is our Secretary of State, Shanna Bellows. And I hope that you can comment on this, but I think you can. Well, no, she told me something in the back about not being able to talk about certain things, so because she's actually employed right now. As Secretary of State, you have been at the forefront of the Mills administration. Your responsibilities include the election process. You have fought hard against the Trump administration to protect Mainers' personal information, and that's a very admirable quality, something that we need in a governor. While Maine Democrats largely believe that the process is secure, a large portion of Maine voters do not fully trust the election process, and that's at least here in Somerset County. Voters, you will need, independents, to cross the finish line in November. Don't trust the system. The Newburgh ballot incident didn't help matters in November, but we all know it was some poor guy in the UPS thing that shoved him in the wrong box because he didn't want to lose his job. But my question to you is, voter ID failed at the polls in 2025, but it's largely thought it would have passed if all that extra fluff wasn't in there, right? As governor, what will your approach be to ensure the voters of Maine that our election process is fair and secure? And how would you navigate voter ID if a citizen's initiative were to pass in the state of Maine?
Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you, Lise and the Somerset County Dems for turning out. This is what democracy looks like. This is why we're running. No kings in America, just good citizens standing up for our rights, right? And so I'm really proud of our elections in Maine. I'm proud that on my watch we had the highest voter participation in the nation in 2022. I am proud that we've modernized elections on my watch. In my first term, I brought automatic voter registration to the BMV as well as appointments so that when young people get their license for the first time, they can pre-register to vote, or when folks move to Maine, they can register to vote immediately, automatically. In my second term, I brought online voter registration to Maine. More than 35,000 Mainers used online voter registration to vote in the last election. And I actually think that your premise is wrong. I think most Mainers
It's two people that's helping. Let me introduce you to my wife.
I do agree with Hannah that you should run for the legislature again. But we're going to win Skowhegan this term, so you're going to have to wait 8 years. But here's the thing. More than 63% of Mainers voted in favor of our current election laws. Yeah. And you're right, that question was complicated because Leonard Leo and his cronies and the MAGA right packed a ton of junk into that question. And I'm proud, as secretary, I get to write the question, and I wrote a clear and concise question that accurately represented what would happen, and the people of Maine voted for common sense. Now, as governor, what I will say is this. I have a long track record of bipartisan coalitions. Republicans have voted in favor of my Bureau Motor Vehicles budget unanimously every single year that I've been secretary. Yeah. I represented a Trump district in the state Senate, and I got reelected twice. Wow. Yeah. Yes. So maybe because I grew up down east, the carpenter's daughter, I am proud of my ability to talk to anybody to get things done for Maine, and that will include safe and secure elections.
Yeah, a lot of enthusiastic people. Okay, if I had a dump tank, I'd probably make $1 million for the Democrats. Next up is, you say no kings, but we gotta have to take a little bit off on that. Now, Mr. King III, I kind of got pushback from this because I wanted to come up with a cool nickname for you, because to separate you from other kings. And all I could come up with was AAA or Trey King, and I don't know if those have any ring. But anyways, I have a question for you, Mr. King. You are the only candidate on this stage that has not held political office, correct? Although you have been active in the political world throughout your life, and you certainly have been no stranger. As a Maine entrepreneur, you have invested and made a living off renewable energy. Caring for the environment is a wonderful ideal, and I know you are proud of your accomplishments in the green industry. But environmental protection does come at a cost. Here in Skowhegan, where you were born, by the way, and lived here for a while, there is a tremendous, I know, right? There is a tremendous amount of worry surrounding the Nature Conservatory's plan to remove the dams along the Kennebec River. SAPI, one of our biggest employers in the county, uses the water and utilizes the Shawmut Dam impoundment to produce paper. Without water, people speculate that SAPI will leave. My question is, how would you balance our responsibility to a clean environment while ensuring that the economic needs of the area are not harmed?
Thank you. Yes, it is true. I was born in Skowhegan. I was the first Lamaze baby ever born in Skowhegan, Redington Fairview. And because there were 2 Anguses in the house, my parents called me Goose. So now you've got a name.
There you go.
This is a great question, because when I started in the solar and wind business, there was an idea that there was a green premium, right? That we were helping the planet and that we were actually making a difference for our climate, but that there was some additional cost. The social license to operate these facilities now, to have that green premium, I think has gone. It has to be affordable. And the project that my colleagues and I built over in Clinton at the Flood Family Farm, it was important that that project both lowered emissions, it created heat and energy for thousands of homes and factories, and it created some good jobs, but it did it without adding costs to Maine families. That was very important. That was a very important part of that project. Now, in this exact moment, you said you weren't going to ask about Iran, but right now, there is a security premium from renewable energy as opposed to a green premium, right? We're actually gaining benefits from having more renewable energy because it doesn't have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. None of the solar panels and none of the cows need to make it through. And so I think there really is a real opportunity. Now with the SAPI project, with the Nature Conservancy project specifically, it is critical, and I've spoken to people sort of on both sides of that project, and I have gotten assurances that the only way forward for that project is to make sure that it does not impact SAPI's operations. It is a critical economic driver of this region. I think the Nature Conservancy people understand that quite clearly, and they, at least to me, are quite committed to making sure that there's a solution that solves that. Now look, these energy problems are complicated. Our cost of living is critically something that the next governor is going to focus on. I've spent my life solving these very difficult problems, and it's something that's going to take someone with some real expertise and some real motivation on how we're going to balance these two things. And as someone who's spent their life in the energy business and in the housing business, I know it's possible, and I'm excited to get to work. Thanks, man.
Excellent, thank you for your question. Because I gotta tell you, I like fish a lot, but I like people who have money to buy Christmas trees even more, so. All right, last but not least, Dr. Shah. You know, Doc, Maine first met you in 2020 during the most significant era in the majority of Mainers' lives. You kept Maine informed and created policies that led us through COVID before moving on to other opportunities, only to return when the administration in Washington changed. I don't blame you. I want to welcome you back. But you come to a state that has some serious issues in healthcare. From inland closing last year to insurance premiums that are prohibitively expensive, it is clear that Maine cannot continue down this path. My experience in healthcare was in emergency medical services. As a paramedic, I would often see large areas of Somerset County without any available ambulances, and it killed us. Due to either inability in staffing, significant increases in inter-facility transfers, because Redington cuts people out now, as well as ambulance deserts up the 201 corridor where nobody lives. In 2025, a woman died after 10 ambulance services refused to respond to her town up in Penobscot County because there was no contractual obligation for anybody to go to that town. What is your plan to ensure that Maine people have reliable access to emergency medical services and emergency health care, especially in the rural areas?
Okay, 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yes, sir. First of all, it is such a pleasure to see everyone. It's great to be back up here in Somerset County. Given how packed this room is, it is really clear that democracy is alive and well, and Democrats are doing a great job here in Somerset County. So thank you all for coming out. And Matt, you raise a really critical issue, and I like how you zeroed in on emergency services. Let me first start by saying the way we think about emergency services is similar to how we should think about the fire department or the police, right? It would be crazy if someone called the fire department and they said, well, you know what, we don't have a contract to come to your area, so good luck, all the best. And we would say that is absolutely unacceptable, and there would be hearings and there would be front page articles. But yet with emergency medical services, we say, well, that's the system. So it is absolutely unacceptable. And that gap in the system is one that, as governor, any of us, all of us, I'm sure would want to paper over. How do we fix this? Well, it gets back to what healthcare really is. Healthcare is a human right for everybody, not just a privilege for the few. But more than that, or as much as that as it is also a public good. It's something that we all need for our communities to survive and thrive, similar to the fire department and the police. But the way we pay for healthcare in a lot of areas, including rural areas, is completely wrong. We pay for healthcare like healthcare is a restaurant. You go in and you buy a sandwich and you pay some money. And that's how a lot of our healthcares and our ambulance systems work. But really, we should pay for ambulance systems similar to how we pay for the fire department or the police. It would be crazy if we paid the fire department a little bit of money every time they got in their truck or every time they used a hose, and that's how they got their salary. We don't do it that way. We sit down and figure out how much they need to operate for the year, and that's what they give them so they are ready in an emergency. We should treat EMS services the exact same way.
Thank you, I appreciate that a lot. All right, so those are the first 5 pointed questions I had. They were all different, and I commend all of you for putting together very strong arguments on the fly. Very good critical thinking, and that makes me feel good. But well, it does. You know, I'd like to have a governor that could like think on their feet, really, because sometimes you can't just talk this stuff out. Now I want to talk to you more about a little bit about your personal life or a personal story, and I'm going to go back to Mr. Jackson and Troy. You're.
Change it up this time.
Huh?
Why don't you change up the order?
Do you want me to change up the order? Okay, well then I'll change. I got my pen out here. You want to go? Okay. He's got his thing. We're all good. They're all gonna get their time. You're all gonna remember them. So, Troy, you were born, raised, and live in the North Maine woods. About as Maine as you can get. Dark in the winter, but heaven in the summer. There is no doubt in my mind that living there has shaped who you are today. I know you are proud of your accomplishments as an adult in the logging industry, but can you share with us a specific experience from your youth that has helped prepare you for the Blaine House?
Yeah, sure.
We got a lot of stories, so like, tell us who you are. Tell us about your childhood. I want to hear about it.
Well, I mean, there's 1,000 different things, but I mean, I've told it 100 different times. I've told it here before. I mean, you know, a big part of who I am, you know, is the fact that, you know, my father used to take me with him in the woods. And one day when he took me to a logging strike. And when I got there, there was a lot of men that were there that were trying to hold on to the rates that they were being paid for an incredibly hard job, working in the woods. You know, 80, 90 men that were, you know, staying around, telling jokes, you know, throwing firecrackers at each other, trying to get over their anxiety. And when the landowner showed up, it was Jim Irvin, you know, a billionaire man that, you know, had power like, you know, no one I've ever met before. And, you know, I was like 11 years old, standing with my dad, who, you know, I had all the pride in the world for. And he told all those men to go back to work in the morning for what he was paying them, or he'd replace them all with Canadian workers. And, you know, and I stood there with my dad and all those men that, you know, went from laughter and, you know, kidding around to anger and frustration and, you know, just a complete desperation. And I didn't realize at the time what it was going to do to me, but years later I found out what it probably did to my dad, standing there with, you know, no ability to say anything, standing there with his son, you know, how you lose your pride, how you lose, you know, any ability to stand up for yourself. But that certainly showed me, how people's influence can really hold you back, and that's been, a big way that I've pushed back in the legislature against power and influence, and not been willing to let them roll over people that didn't have power and influence. I've been someone that stood up for people ever since.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you very much. I know that some of those questions may sound hokey a little bit, but it is nice to hear that these people are people. And at the end of the day, everybody, I know it sounds terrible, but everybody poops, right? Like, we all have the same thing, we all do our thing, right? And we have to remember that, so.
That's what you got out of that.
Well, no, but I do, because but I mean it, like that was the take-home message.
I kind of felt that way that day too.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. It's like, you're feeling pretty crummy about yourself, so. But I really, thank you. I do have actually, I have a quick follow-up for you. And this is like the difference between Ford or Chevy, and I won't tell you what I think, but Husqvarna or Steel?
Husqvarna.
Yeah! Yeah! All right. Hannah, it's your turn. Now.
I'm ready.
All right. You had a unique upbringing as well. You're about as Maine as it gets. Islanders are a different sort. You don't frig with them, I'll tell you that. But like the island itself, Islanders are strong and resilient, hard as a rock. But at the same time, they have to work with each other to get through the night because help isn't coming for a long time, even if they don't like each other. In politics, there are times when you have to reach across the aisle and work with people that you may not like or don't think that they like you. Can you share a time when you felt a Republican lawmaker accomplish something that deserved your bipartisan praise?
Sure. Matt's almost giving my stump speech here, so I
did not mean to.
I did grow up on an offshore island, a town of just 400 people, where you got to take a ferry to get there. And when I was growing up, both of my parents volunteered as EMTs. They both served on the school board. They both ran small businesses, because that's how our town worked. Everybody had to be engaged. And I still live there today with my husband and 2 kids. My husband's a volunteer firefighter. So in my town, if your house is burning down or you're sick, you are relying on your neighbors to come and save you. And we don't all agree on politics. I grew up with lots of guys, fishermen, who voted for Donald Trump, but we still have to figure out how to work together to solve challenges. So I had the opportunity to spend 8 years in the Maine legislature, where I learned a lot about how do you actually get things done working across the aisle. It was a pretty difficult time. I was there during the entire time of John Baldacci. We didn't have a lot of money. And I served as both majority leader and Speaker of the House, where my job was to figure out how do you bring people together to actually get things done. We worked on lots of budgets, 2/3 budgets, bipartisan budgets, where we had Troy was there with me. We actually figured out how do we invest in our infrastructure. I worked a lot with Republican leader Josh Tardy, and I would say he and I banged out a bond package, which we haven't had in a long time, to invest in both land conservation and our roads and bridges, and I was really appreciative of my ability to work with him. I also worked with a Republican state senator named Dana Dow, who sold furniture. And he and I took on a huge fight against the U.S. chemical companies to try to take toxic chemicals out of kids' products and also out of our furniture. And I was incredibly grateful for our partnership, and I think because he was willing to work with me, we got this thing passed by an overwhelming bipartisan margin. So love working with Republicans. There's a lot of common ground. We don't always agree, but when you can find a way to agree and get something big done, it makes a very big difference.
Thank you. One of the things that I thought is, at the end of the day, they want the same things that we want as far as a better Maine. The difference is that our visions on what a better Maine is very different. And my final question for you is scallops or clams?
I love clams.
All right.
I like both.
There you go. Yeah, it's like, let's non-committal here. Ms. Bellows. I told you this a little bit before, but according to your Wikipedia, yeah, that's where I get my research.
Not all of it's accurate.
You spent a large part of your formative years in Central and South America, both as an exchange student and as a college student. In this day of global... Well, you did, right? Brazil, right?
6 months. Yeah.
Well, you know, 6 months, that's 6 months longer than half of us here spend in Brazil, I can tell you that right now.
Very critical. When did you go off?
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express while I was down there. In the day of this global economy, which Maine is certainly a part of, how did the experiences of learning and growing in foreign countries prepare you for the role of governor?
So first, let me share this. When I was, my parents moved to Maine when I was 2. My mother's family was from here from pre-Revolutionary War times. But when I was 4, they bought a piece of land in Hancock. My sister was 3, my brother was 2, and they pitched a tent. And my father was a self-employed carpenter. He'd work by days. Then my mom would take the vehicle and work nights in the light bulb filament factory in Sullivan. And in their spare time, they and my uncles dug out an old cellar hole. And that's where we lived that next winter. We didn't have electricity or indoor plumbing until I was in the 5th grade. We were dirt poor. So I worked through high school and college. I waited tables. I was a Subway sandwich artist. I worked in the kitchen of a lobster pound. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I was part of AFS. We had exchange students come to our high school. I was always welcoming them, showing them around, and there was a scholarship to go to Brazil for free. So I went home and I said, Mom and Dad, I want to go study in Brazil. And they said, absolutely not. And so I got 2 of my teachers to come home and convince my parents that it would be... my in-laws are laughing, Ralph and Carol Baldwin. I love Skowhegan and Somerset County so much. I married a native. But they came home and convinced my parents that it would be a unique educational opportunity. So I went down to Brazil, and I was placed with this extraordinarily wealthy family. My parents sent me with $100 in my pocket, which was like the world, right? Because this family was so wealthy and spent so much money, I ran out of money in about a month and a half. So I had to go to work. I couldn't call home for money. So I taught English the entire time that I was there. In college, I studied international politics and economics. And again, I had to work my way through college. I did just about everything. On campus, I was the recycling coordinator, which is a fancy word for the garbage collector. And I went and studied abroad in Costa Rica, in San Jose, the capital city, which was fascinating for this girl from Hancock, Maine, to live in the big city. But what I would say that I learned in those experiences about the global economy is the biggest challenge that we have in this country right now, threatening our democracy, is Donald Trump. But it's not just Donald Trump. It's a symptom of something that is desperately wrong, and that is the gap between the haves and the have-nots. The families living in basements, struggling to get by, working 2 or 3 jobs, the kids that are trying to get ahead and have educational opportunity, and the millionaires and billionaires who aren't paying taxes. And you're saying I need to wrap it
Just
up.
a little bit.
But one of the reasons, I'm going to fight for the working class because I'm from the working class. I'm going to fight to fix wealth inequality in our state and create economic opportunity for all because it's fundamental to our democracy. Our democracy is at risk because of lack of economic opportunity for those working class folks in our society.
Thank you. And my follow-up question to you is, everybody here knows that I am the de facto Christmas tree king of Cornville. I'm the only one that sells Christmas trees in Cornville. But I'm also the president
Feliz
of Maine...
Navidad.
Exactly. I'm also the president of the Maine Christmas Tree Association. One thing that Governor Mills did is she brought back the tradition of having Christmas trees in the Blaine house supplied by them. So this is an easy give me because I know your answer's going to be. If you were elected governor, will you continue the tradition of having the Maine Christmas Tree Association come down and bring a Christmas tree?
Yes.
Because the page wouldn't do it.
You damn right I will. And my mom, one of her night jobs when I was a kid, she worked in a Christmas wreath factory in Ellsworth.
Well, awesome. I've done a lot of that too. All right, Mr. Goof. Now, you've certainly been around politics your entire life, and according to Wikipedia, you met Mr. Clinton there down in Washington when you were younger, and but you've never held political office, and then you went to school to become a business person. and you are an entrepreneur, and you are in the profit-driven private sector. People say that government should be run like a business, but we all know that they're very different animals. In business, it's how much money do we want to make. In government, it's how much money are we willing to lose. Well, I mean, it kind of is, isn't it? That being said,
Talk amongst yourselves.
I know. That being said, as a Democrat entrepreneur, how has your experience building businesses in Maine prepared you to lead our state into 2030?
Yeah, thank you. The people who say that government is like a business, they're wrong, right? It's not like a business, but it is a massive organization of people who are coming together to achieve a common purpose. And they are led by an executive whose job it is to get the right people in the right seats, set out a vision, get the roadblocks out of the way, and let those people go and do good work. And that is really the essence of what running a business is like. So my entire life has been about doing things. It is about going out into the world. There are not a lot of reports that you write. There are not a lot of 10-point plans. It is literally getting people together. So I've created jobs. I've created clean energy. I've created affordable housing. I've done all of those things by, number one, finding common ground. We have a lot more in common than we don't. And I think it's really important that we focus on that. You asked this question about, can you work with Republicans? I think it's critical because the challenges that our state faces right now are way bigger than a single partisan solution. They are not rural or urban problems or down east or here over here problems or red or blue problems. They are all of our problems. And it's going to take all of us to solve them. And so I think that experience comes from a lot of different places, but my experience has been, how do you find some common ground, apply some common sense, make sure that you listen to people, and then figure out, with a bias for action, figure out how you get things done, and then make sure that you're accountable for the dollars and the results. And I think that is actually the perfect description of what the next governor should be. So that's how I think about government, is not that it's a business, but it certainly creates the environment for businesses to operate. And I think the other advantage of having somebody who has spent a lot of their career in business is understanding what it's like to hire somebody, what it's like to actually create a job, what it's like to argue with somebody about a permit that might make your project a lot more expensive and take a lot more time, and understand how hard it is sometimes that we make it on businesses here that create jobs. Every single tax dollar comes from a wage that somebody earned. And I think it's really important that we have somebody who appreciates the value of those tax dollars and manages those dollars the same way that any other person who's running an operation would.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Here's another easy one. Portland or Skowhegan?
Skowhegan.
There you go. There's a lot of houses on the market up here. You get your rear end back up.
I may currently live in Portland. I'm of Skowhegan.
There you go. I'll hook you up with a realtor. Dr. Shah, you are the only candidate not born and raised in Maine. Everybody else was at least raised in Maine, and most of them were born in Maine. Like the words of that old country song, you've traveled every road in this here land. I was looking at that Wikipedia, and you've been all over the place. Spending some of the darkest days of the 21st century leading Maine through COVID, and you left for the CDC. I probably would have too, but you came back. And I think Maine does that to people. They always come back. So I would like to know, regardless of the outcome of this race, and you can keep in mind that Susan Collins has told us a lot of things a lot of times and she hasn't followed through. Do you plan to call Maine your home going forward? And would you really rather feel bad in Maine than feel good anywhere else?
There you go. Matt sent me that sign during COVID, and it's still somewhere in our office. And so let me answer your question as clearly and unequivocally as possible, Matt. Yes, Maine is our family's home, and we are not leaving. Some politicians in Maine, after losing, have moved to, say, Florida, for example. And that is not what's going to be happening in our family. And allow me to explain. First, it's true. I wasn't born in Maine. but I got here as fast as I could. And as a result of that, I have the love and passion for Maine that only a convert could have. And the truth of the matter is, shortly after arriving, my wife and I realized that this is where we wanted to make our lives, and that we had no intention of leaving. In fact, even when I went to the federal government, I didn't want to. It was not a job that I sought. It was not a job I applied for. But sometimes when you get called to the show, you go. But I made it very, very clear that coming back was always the plan. I was never going to be a lifer down there. We kept our house in Brunswick. We kept our gym membership in Brunswick. Coming back was always the plan. This was not always the plan, but coming back certainly was. And no matter what happens on June 9th, my family and I are staying in Maine, and we have no intention of leaving. That is in part because moving to Maine was, for us, a dream come true. When the opportunity to move to Maine came up, we jumped at it. I grew up in rural northern Wisconsin, in a town of about 5,000 people with only one stoplight. And I grew up doing all the things that a young kid in a little town like that does. Hanging out with community, learning how to fish, learning how to hunt, snowmobiling, all of those things. And so when, after living in Chicago for 25 years, the opportunity to move back to a place similar to what I loved, something similar to northern Wisconsin, when that came up, coupled with the opportunity to continue in public service, I jumped at it, and we haven't looked back since.
Excellent, thank you. So, my softball for you. Which would you rather endure? Black flies in May or northeasters in January?
Oh, give me the northeaster any day.
All right. Well, it is now 2 o'clock. Now, I made a mistake with you guys. I'm going to tell you that I was supposed to let you talk about yourselves for a little bit. We're going to do that. I'll give you double time at the end of it so we can wrap up hard there and you guys get all your time in the world. Yeah, you know. But we shift on the fly here. It's live theater and you got to do what you got to do. So, we are going to take a break because I'm sure as riveting as all this stuff is, you guys are shifting in your seats and you wonder what's going on. So we know where the bathrooms are, we know where the food is, we know where people are to do QCs, to do all of that stuff. Talk amongst yourselves, see the people that you love, and we'll be back here in about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll make sure that you're all sitting down before we get going again.
Can we set a specific time to be back so it's 10
not
minutes. So
well,
10 minutes?
Yeah, it's we'll be back at 2, you want to go 2:10? 2:10.
Is that right?
How about 2:15?
2:15. Do I hear